one. Welcome to it, guys. Chronicles of Motion with me, Steve Saunders, and special guest around the Ride JoBurg episode, JP Nortje, a legend in the cycling and adventure sports arena. He's been around for a long time. JP, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, but looking forward to this. So we've got a couple of episodes lined up in this one, and where we're going to try and get an understanding of as much of the information as possible around Ride JoBurg, its positioning in the year, changes that have happened, things that have stayed the same, and your role that you picked up recently as race director, which is quite the step up. You've done this before in multiple other events, but a big one being Ride JoBurg, and one of the biggest races, timed racing events in the world. It's a heavy burden to take on, but you're taking it on, and we're looking forward to what's to come in the years ahead. So, an introduction on JP. Before the crowds, the camera, and the closed highways, there's a story. In this first episode of our Ride JoBurg series, we sit down with the man at the helm, JP Nortje. From a young rider chasing miles to the race director steering one of the world's biggest time cycling events, JP's journey is one of grit, vision, and love for the sport. Let's meet the person behind the pedals. JP, question number one. When and how did you first get involved in cycling? And talk a little bit about that history that brought you through to the sport of cycling.
Sure. Such a lucky question. I think if you ask anyone that, you always wonder and you think back where the nostalgic of it started. And I actually needed to think where it actually started for me. And I think it's different for me to many others, because I grew up on a farm in Magaliesburg, never really had, we had bicycles, cycling, some of the routes and things like that, but never, I was never that person or that kid that cycled from home to your school, that type of vibe. So my school was almost 50 kilometers away from there. So that was just nothing ever an option anyways. And then it, obviously through life, I went further, and I, as you know, was a personal trainer for long. And one of my clients back then, she said that she had a bike that's just standing in her garage, and it's just there. And at that time, you guys would know a trail park in the West Rand called Kingskloof. And a Kingskloof was sort of my breeding ground. And those trails, myself and the friend and myself were sort of like the invisitors of that. So we built the trails, even like this is now 2002 around there, 2000 and maybe around there. So it's quite a long time ago. And so that's when we started. Obviously finished high school, and that project never finished because we just wanted the trails to basically start, for us to start basically riding there. And then anywhere from 2006, I got into personal training. This client of mine said, listen, if the bike is there, why don't you just go and test drive it? It's so funny. I was on that trail trying my bike, and my skills were absolutely enormously very bad. But I got out on the trail, and that's just, it's around the 2007s, around there. It just hooked me on the mountain bike, the freedom, the ability to be around farm animals, and just to see a vision how trails would be built even in 2007. So that's a little bit of my history, and of it. Cycling then grew further in life as personal training got better. I got more groups, more people around me. I moved away from a little bit of mountain biking and into let's call it a triathlon, and I think that's where I established my love of cycling, running, and swimming at the same time, but also in visiting myself and cementing myself in the fitness industry. It began then triathlon, and then only recently it's now only focused on mountain biking, and now Ride JoBurg, which is road riding.
So, so this background and this experience, I mean, you're talking quickly over a lot of the topics and subjects. You've done many events yourself, so you've been an athlete in these environments and you've competed in these things. You've done the adventure sports side of it as well. The general conditioning, you've learned and seen the skills development of the coaching world, how it makes a difference, those who are participating in these events. And you had the opportunity to join a company that inevitably ended up taking over what used to be Cycle Challenge, became Ride JoBurg, a much more suitable name to the event with mass participation angle. Give us a little bit of a rundown of how those all those streams came together to present the opportunity for JP Nortje to be at the helm of the position he's at now.
Yo.
Get you thinking.
that gets me thinking.
Yes. So endurance, faces, all of these factors.
Endurance, faces, warrior. Actually, again, back into my roots where I was a personal trainer, I got involved with Warrior. Obviously, this client of mine was the event owner of Warrior, and as it just I got into organizing and became like, let's call it the operational manager for the day, then move into marshal management. Then myself and Fritz were good friends during that time, because they then took over full control of Warrior, and that just led into more of a passion into mass participation. So funny, I'm jumping back into my own personality here now, but when I was on school, I never knew what the difference is between extrovert and introvert. So I always thought I am an introvert because I'm shy, but that was never the case. It's shy is just a byfactor of not really having skills. So, or that's how I see it. And there was always this urge to have people around me, and I consistently asked my parents, "Hey, when are these people coming to visit us? When are your friends coming to visit?" It didn't need to worry about if it's my friends or their friends. I just needed people on the farm. And then I realized, extrovert means people around me, I get my energy. And introvert means I get my energy from being alone. And shyness is just a skill that I need to work on and get around with as soon as possible. Leading into my next question, leading into the next phase of it is, I started learning that the more people I have around me, the more effective I am. And the more pressure I have, the more effective I am for some reason. So I really embraced the knowledge that I knew that is actually my strength. And I just asked, I started asking more, where can I take on more, being a safety officer, then being a route manager, then being, there's so many I can talk about, but it's by laying that foundation and being in every single aspect of the business, it leads to where I'm now, because now I know the foundation of the business. I also know the talkability that's on the ground from the closer to the participant. So I know their struggles. I know our struggles as race directors or race organizers, and I can meet them in between and keep both parties happy.
Brilliant. So you've worn all these different hats within these events. You've been a cyclist, you've been the adventure sport person, you've been the personal trainer helping the people with their conditioning to go and do these events. You've been the event organizer, the route director, the race director. Which of these roles do you think has shaped you the most? Particularly, I'm going to add to that, in preparation for the role you find yourself in today.
I think every aspect has shaped me as it needs to be, because I'm challenged today with sponsorship management. So, for instance, where things back in the day, I had to, as a personal trainer and a fitness coach, I had to speak to high-end CEOs. And so I think by using that as a relationship builder, and also understanding body language and emotional intelligence and things like that. So that's an aspect that I've learned being a coach, because you needed to understand where that person back then is on the day, because today you'll feel good, the next day you'll not feel good, and then I'll adjust my training program to that. So that I do feel like I understand today, because now it's being able to speak like to the Vodacom of CEO, and I'm doing that on a consistent basis today, and leading into race director for Warrior and Race to the Sea and things like that. Every single thing has its own unique points to where I'm now. And Ride JoBurg is such a beast. It's really, there's so many elements if that can go wrong, but if you get it right, there's so many things that is going to go right. And that's what my feeling here is, that I think we can get more right than wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so out of all these experiences, you put it back down to being that learning to engage with different people without being intimidated,
Yep.
realizing that they're just people out there doing their jobs. Everybody's got pressure. Everyone's got that feeling of, "Oh, am I doing my job correctly or not?" So get out there and do it anyway. Um, a defining moment in your early career that set you on the path to leading Ride JoBurg. Is there any point where you realized you could possibly be the man who handles the second biggest event in South Africa, and it's probably the second biggest event in the world as far as timed bicycle racing goes?
Well, you always aspire to have a bigger goal. I always say shoot for the star, and you'll just land up somewhere. But
Land
I
on the
never
moon.
knew it's going to just, yeah, you land on the moon. But I never knew it's going to actually happen. I thought it might happen later. But yeah, my goal was set to become the race director for Ride JoBurg since we acquired Ride JoBurg. It's something that I wanted. I saw just the pleasure of being on the roads and how people enjoy cycling and the talkability, and who does not like a coffee and a cycle and friends? Who does not like it? I think
Exactly.
if you speak to anyone, that is almost the common goal of a leisure. Sorry.
I'm, I'm losing your signal a bit there, JP.
Yeah, sorry.
The telephone call coming in.
Then that went off.
Oh,
Apologies. Don't know what's happening.
no, sound is still good. Let's keep going.
Is the sound still good? Will you be able to cut that?
Yep.
Okay.
No,
Where
we'll
were
leave it.
I?
It's all part of, isn't this part of what happens when you're an event organizer? You got everything written down and you got exact plans for the day, an A scenario, B scenario, C scenario, D scenario. None of them work when something goes wrong, and you got to think on the feet and deal with the problem.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right there. I think my biggest thing that I consistently tell myself and the team is plan for the worst and hope for the best, because you can scrutinize every problem there is. You can scrutinize or analyze every single financial decision. But event day comes, it could have been a beautiful day the Friday. Sunday comes, it could be hailing, it could be sun, it could be rainy. It could be even people coming in that was not there, overcrowded. But these are the things, if you do planning way and ahead, you can be in a calm state of mode and just execute with your team. And it's also choosing the right
Yep,
team. That's very important.
absolutely. I was going to say, so part of I think your answer for this one, and I'm assuming it's going to be lessons from your time as route director must be guiding a lot of your work now as race director. Firstly, define the difference for us between a route director and a race director, and then give us a little bit of how the lessons from being route director have assisted you and helped you with this role you now find yourself in.
Yeah, again, another great question. Route director is the let's call it the role that gets the least seen, but it's probably the most important cog of the wheel in making this event possible. Because you're not coming to FNB Stadium to drink coffee and have a beer and have a little bit of vibe. You're actually coming there to chase your goal and be with people
Mm,
out on the route. And yeah, being a route director, it learned me how to communicate well. There is a hell of a lot of structures and points en route that needs to happen in a very short amount of time. So we start 11 o'clock at night, the Saturday night before the race. We start closing the
yeah,
routes, and 5:30 that gun goes off at FNB Stadium, and it's a rolling start and a rolling closure. We put up almost 9 kilometers of fencing. There is almost 2,000 cones that goes out. There is marshals. There's metro. There is so many people and suppliers on that route for the participant to feel safe. Now,
yeah,
that's just the structure of it. There's many aspects that go smaller into it, but if you do not communicate well to them, no one knows what and where to go. So that just learned me or taught me that I need to be a good communicator. I have to have really good relationship skills and I need to execute extremely well because you have someone, again, I said it earlier, is there is 2,000 people on there, but even if 10 people don't feel well on the day, you need to find a way to motivate them because they need to see the bigger picture. And if they see the bigger picture, everyone is happy. And that 10 people can really hurt a lot of people if it needs to, because if they don't focus, one person slips into the route from a car, then then it could be a real nightmare. So
yeah,
I'm literally copy and pasting that now as being a race director. But to answer your question, the difference between route director and race director is the amount of, let's call it, stress that falls onto your shoulders in terms of
mm,
managing a way bigger budget. Also making sure that if everyone gets to their places, now it's not just being route specifically. I have to look at communication from marketing. I have to look at how the expo is going to look. What initiatives in a CI project are we going to get in? What is next steps for next year? Where does the sponsorship tag on? Yeah, what next radio ad campaigns come in? How much budget are we putting to that? So yeah, it's just now this whole bigger, let's call it, oyster that's open, that I've got a blank canvas to 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 paint, but also to manage.
yeah. And we're going to talk about these in a little bit more detail in our next episode because there's a lot of things that happen. Never mind talking about the macro things like COVID hit the world and the world went
Yep.
went mad. Everything got shut
Yep.
down. Events got cancelled. People had to reestablish themselves. Businesses went all of those. So we'll go into those in the next episode. Um, your you talk about a couple of factors that are very, very important, and you mentioned communication, you mentioned motivation. What makes a good communicator, a good motivator in an environment like this, where you've got to handle so many people, so many different scenarios? Everyone you dealing with is dealing with a different type of stress at their moment in time. To them, it feels like their world is collapsing. But you've obviously you've got perspective over this whole thing now as what was route director. Now you've got it on a race director role. Within that, what makes a good communicator? What makes a good motivator?
Hmm. What makes a good communicator? Well, I'll just paint the bigger or the holistic view of how I see it is. confidence, and that should not be cockiness at all, because it can bring you down to earth very quickly. Also
Humble very
with
quickly.
yeah, very quickly. Then with that also is paired the knowledge of it, because the more you know, the better you can make decisions. And a good communicator could be that there's a, a follow through, so communicating to the team, follow through on email, and then executing and then following up if it's been done or not. It's all about clear communication. I also don't believe too much in long emails, long communication. Is I want to get straight to the point. Can you execute it and get it done? But that also ties back into getting the right team, which we fully have. I cannot thank the team more than, I will probably thank them over and over, but it's just me needed to manage them and keeping them happy, because if they're happy, they will, or they see the legacy of this event. It's quite a, if you think of it, this year is 28 years. There's a huge historic
Yeah.
background onto this event. So how do you fulfill those shoes? But it's difficult. I literally can't fulfill those shoes because there's so much done up until now. But it's now I need to put on my own shoes and making this happen. And it's not discarding what has happened in the previous years. And I'm taking all of that in from the previous race directors, Fritz Binan as well as Tanya Harford. I'm taking all of their knowledge and trying to create my own shoe and just
Mm.
walking it with the team. So yeah,
Yeah,
I hope I answered
absolutely.
what you asked.
Um, I think you have communication being the pivotal point, getting a message to each of your teammates, but selecting the right people who know how to communicate with you probably just as important. Now, I get my role as
Just
being a relatively easy one. I sit on the mic, having been given all the
mm,
information by you guys and everything you plan in the background, and I try to relate to those who don't understand the amount of work that you guys do,
mm,
how much prep goes on in the background. And when you get these one sentence corrections from people that say, oh, they should just put this here. And I go, it probably has been thought about. 57 people have argued that point out. I doubt there is a reason why they wouldn't have done it. But, it's one of those crazy things. So talking, you mentioned Fritz, you mentioned, the previous race directors, Tanya Harford, the founder of the event that she said 28 years. I can't believe it. I got to ride that first event. Can you believe it?
wow.
The year Nick White won it, I went off in the break with him. But he knew I wasn't going to be with him for very long. And, about 10 kilometers into that breakaway from the gun, he rode away from myself and the other guys, and that was it. We never saw him again. He won. Um, but from that point on, we knew that that event was special, and it has become an iconic event in the South African road racing scene. Um, and the people who manage it have become iconic individuals, and now you're the third iteration of that phenomenal role play. What have you taken from each of these people that you found special and inspiring to help you in the role that you now find yourself in?
So I haven't had the opportunity to deal with Tanya in more than a period of a year or beyond. It was a short handover, but what she did give us is very strict deadlines. She was very um, good at making sure that every aspect of a, let's call it, project needs to be top to bottom. So every, like a sweep needs to have a project, a water point needs to have a project, and everyone needs to have a project and also executing that well. So meaning structure is something that she delved on very well. Fritz then took
Yeah.
that over added structure, but with relationship. He's really phenomenal with relationships, and he knows the sport so well. That things like making shorter time batch spaces is that's just one of them. Good relationship with the city, sponsorships just love him. It's also just a lekker oak to be around. Who does not want to be around Fritz Pienaar? it's just lekker.
Yeah.
But again, you've got your positives of Tanya, you've got your positives of Fritz, and I only am going to aspire to that, and I'm going to really focus on taking that and beyond. I might have also good relationships, and I also have good structure, but it's now me figuring that out. Where do I fit into this cog, and what do I do differently? And it's new to me, so it's time for me to figure that out. But in a phase of commitment, it's 200%. I'm here to figure that out and make this event next level, even though if it's me not sleeping for 10 days.
So what makes JP Nortje unique in this triumvirate of amazing people that have been race directors of the Ride JoBurg event over the last 28 years? What makes you unique? A very introspective type question to have to answer.
Let's see. I don't even know where that needs to go. Jeez.
So without, and we know you're a very humble person. You have to stick to your guns when you have to make decisions. You're good at that.
Yeah.
I can say from my side, having dealt with you, you're good at teamwork. You're good at asking for opinion. You're good at listening to opinion and then making your own decision anyway. But how do you see yourself as being uniquely different? What's going to be the personality difference from Fritz previously and Tanya before? What are the positives you think you're going to bring to this?
Well, I think my biggest positivity here is I can listen to the participant. I will be able to. We've got this campaign that you're also very aware of, is the Train JoBurg. And through that, there's actually a lot of learning curves into what is going on the ground. So things like if the expo was one of the things that people didn't like, I can sort of find a way to address that. Also, the initiatives of things like the 1,000 entries that we're giving away. That's a CI project that we came up with, and we're initiating that as soon as possible, or not soon as possible, but it's at this moment busy with. Also getting international elites in. That's a big drive for me in the next 5 years, is to get the likes of Tadej Pogačar here and having people to cycle with him, but also refocusing on charities and how charities get involved and use this event as a charity builder. I do feel there's lots of value in closing the roads and using the charity drive or the Ride for Purpose that we have and just really rebuilding it and enhancing it more, not as rebuilding it, but enhancing it with great people and great cyclists. And I think it's just amazing how you will have someone like a Ryan Gibbons being able to race, and he is on route afterwards, and people can actually cycle with him. And then you still have, at the same time, a car guard that wants to cycle, and he has the opportunity to come and ride JoBurg on a closed road. Exactly. So I think that's I think this podcast will obviously go way beyond if you really ask me where my focus are, but that is in interim is to uplift the let's call it the charity, the corporates and charities, give purpose to the average Joe or the weekend warrior out there, but also have a place that we've have for the elites. As you know, we've got the biggest prize purse out there is for the male and female winner. And just finding a balance to
Yes.
make that really attractive for everyone across the world.
Nice. So three aspects of this: corporates and charities, rider experience, and the international, should we call them rock stars, to
Yeah.
come through to the event. Those will be like big goals. Those sound pretty awesome. So I'm going to take the pressure off now. I've done enough of like putting big pressure questions onto you. We'll wind this episode down with a few questions more around your experience in cycling and other sporting events. So my next question for you: are there other sporting or community projects you've been involved in that you're particularly proud of?
Sporting that I can be proud of in our community or in our pool or
Anything you're proud of, you would like to tell us a story about that you think is cool. It could be, I don't know, maybe you like found one person and helped them out with a bicycle. Maybe you
okay.
motivated one person to get onto their training. Maybe you changed the
I
world. It's
can.
up to you.
There's many of them, but again, I'll have podcasts on podcasts on podcasts because there's like 1,000 of them. Um,
They
but give
will
me
keep
5 minutes, I'll try and explain it nicely to you in my words. So, Trail Seeker 2022, Sondela. We had a very successful day in Sondela that day. We broke down the venue. Um, then we just had some celebrating drinks afterwards. I calmed down. My family came in. We sat in Sondela. They've got these tented camps. And there was another couple, not part of the event, just coming in on the Saturday, and they're staying there for the weekend and onwards. And we just started chilling. It was an amazing night because I felt tired, but also at the same time I felt accomplished because we just successfully delivered. I think there was about 1,800 to 1,900 athletes, but nonetheless of that, it was just a good day. So started making fire for these couple. It was a man and a woman and their two kids, and started braaiing. Fire was up, as you know. Chats goes up and down, and one of the chats started off with, they asked me, what do I do? I then said, no, we just did the event. It went successful. It's a cycling event. And they just not into cycling at all. They're not into fitness at all. They are just nowhere. They sort of like the idea that there's some sort of fitness point of it. But then I said, you know what? Just buy yourself a bike and come and do the 10Ks, 10 kilometer ride next year. The way you need to structure your training is just get onto the bike 10 minutes a day. Don't ever feel like 10 minutes is a waste of your time. The night went down. I left it 3 years down the line. Never thought of anything. So for Trail Seeker, as you know, you were there. Now in July, I was on my phone, and this person, husband or man, walked up to me, JP, 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 JP. And I've got no recollection who this guy is, but I do remember his face. He's like, Jacob, I know you won't remember me, but it's Dave, it's me. I remember 3 years back, you told me about buying a bike. You see my family there. They've got a bike. She's got a bike. They've already done 947, the 35 kilometers. They've done the 10 minutes every single day. And as a family, for the first time at Fort Trail Seeker now in July, the whole family did the 10K together. And here I think for myself, it's just something I threw out there, not motivating anyone. But it's such a
Had a
special
positive
story.
effect.
Actually, I was lost for words when this gentleman came up with me, to me, and say that to me. I almost felt
That's
like
really
picking
cool.
a trance.
You're allowed to have a little cry every now and then. You've had a positive
Yeah,
effect on a lot of people out there. So, and it's something you got to keep perspective on.
yeah,
There's,
definitely.
I talk to a lot of athletes about maintaining perspective, and particularly with athletes, they have this bad habit of only looking at the people that are beating them, and they always focus on that small group of people ahead of them, and they never look
Yeah,
at how many people are below them. and what they can do to lift those people up, because that's also a sense of reward that can be done, but also a sense of achievement of what's being done. And I reiterate in this program, your position currently as race director puts you into a very, very small group of people who can manage a mega event. And I say to any other race organizer, there's a big difference between a big event and a mega event. There is a massive logistical difference, and it's almost like a different creature completely. It's no longer about necessarily having fun just because you like cycling or like running or triathlon or whatever. It's a proper working machine. And you've got to keep that perspective on it. And then you relate the story about you having a care with the neighbors over a braai and irrelevant. Go, get on your bike, just ride for 10 minutes a day. And next thing you've got the whole family living that healthy lifestyle. So little high five to you. Well done, JP. And those things, I suppose that's where it comes through when you're talking about your goals for the next couple of years. These are all about rider experience and seeing more people taking part in the event. Talking about cycling, it requires a certain amount of resilience itself. How has your own resilience been tested throughout this experience, this progression, route director, assistant, marshal, of what all these different roles you picked up over time? How's your resilience been tested recently?
Like 260% every single second. It's been tested. But to make an analogy is, if you do any event out there, there's always a huge hill, and you'll always have people commenting, when there's an uphill, there's a downhill. So it's like, that's what I love about the sport is there's pressure, and that pressure resides into resilience, and then there's an outcome of just release, and the release of pressure, and coming over the finish line, having then a drink of beer with your friends. I think if you don't understand coming over the line, and you've really tested yourself, you won't understand what I'm saying. But if you have, you'll probably relate with me how special that feeling is. Now, the last, let's call it 4 months, I'm still on that uphill. Definitely with that uphill, purely because of the curveball that we got from G20 and moving dates. And now all the dates are moved. So also our planning also cramped in because now it's shorter, and just getting everyone on board and getting them there. But it's slowly ticking, making one project tick and move, tick and move, tick and move. Is slowly, I'm getting over that hill as we get, and I'm getting close to the finish line. My finish line is the event day. So
lots of pressure, lots still to do with. But that resilience from having experienced that over time in all your different roles has kept you there. That perspective of knowing that, you keep pedaling, you're going to get over the top of the hill, then you're going to have the downhill.
Exactly.
It will be there. You've got to have that trust and belief in yourself. So,
Frostbite.
and I'm sure you're what?
No, I'm just saying frostbite.
Oh, frostbite. That's a brilliant, that's a great statement to use. So, wrapping up this episode, JP, what does cycling mean to you? And I think you've just related a little bit about your uphill and downhill scenario. What does cycling mean to you personally beyond competition and logistics?
Beyond competition and logistics, connecting people. That's it. I love connecting with people. It just gives me so much joy. And like, if you tell me now, get me for coffee on your bike, I'll go now. Like, klim op my fiets en gaan. Obviously, when I was younger, I only wanted to race, and I wanted to be on the podium as much as possible, and I wanted to show my people around me that I'm cool, which is not a bad statement. I'm just saying. It's just phases of your life is different, and the competitiveness in me will never just walk away. So don't think it if you're older that competitiveness is just going to disappear. It is actually not. I feel more competitive, but I'm finding having joy in people around me and having an 80-kilometer ride, and it's just enjoying each other. It's conversation. So for me, it's really nurturing relationships again. And yeah,
And if I said this term, it's a sense of community. Would that ring true
community.
for you?
Yeah, community, absolutely.
Well, there we go. So, JP, I said we'd be about 40 minutes, 40 minutes and 45 seconds in total.
Wow.
That's episode number
Oh,
one,
there.
done and dusted with a huge amount of information related, and we didn't even scratch the surface properly of what could be done. We're going to go into a lot more detail around the Ride JoBurg experience and the story so far on the next episode. So remember to look out for that one. JP, I'm going to close it off with a little statement from my side. That's JP Nortje, not just the leader of Ride JoBurg, but a man whose life has been shaped by fitness and two wheels and an unshakable belief in the power of cycling. Next time, we'll rewind the clock to discover this iconic race began and how it grew into a global cycling calendar fixture. You won't want to miss it. JP, thank you very much for your time. You've been brilliant. And I think next week, same time, same place. You keen?
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having
Have a
me.
good one.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Ciao,
JP.
ciao.
We'll chat later. Keep
Bye.
well. Yes, bye.
Bye-bye.